The mystery of the seahorse emoji. The seahorse emoji is one of the more intriguing examples in the growing collection of Mandela effect phenomena. The Mandela effect refers to the collective misremembering of certain facts or events by large groups of people. In this case, many individuals strongly recall a seahorse emoji being available on iPhones. Some remember it vividly enough to describe specific features, claiming that not only did the emoji exist, but there were actually two versions released over time. Yet, according to both Apple and Unicode Consortium records, no official seahorse emoji has ever existed. What makes the seahorse emoji memory so compelling is the level of detail with which people describe it. Some say the original version was a yellow seahorse with blue fins, cartoonish in appearance and consistent with the older emoji styles. Others insist that Apple later updated it to a more detailed pink version, similar in style to the newer, more realistic animal emojis that appeared after iOS design updates. These accounts are so specific that they sound plausible. People claim they used the emoji in messages, inserted it in captions, and even saw it on friends' devices. Yet searches across emoji databases, old operating system archives, and emoji update logs reveal no trace of it ever existing. This leads to the question, how can so many people confidently recall something that seemingly never was? One possibility is visual association. The human brain is prone to filling in gaps with familiar images. Seahorses, being distinct and often featured in children's media, aquariums, and marine-themed designs, are easy to imagine in emoji form. It's possible that people are confusing sticker packs, third-party keyboard apps, or cartoon images with the actual emoji keyboard used by Apple and other platforms. A similar-looking character might have been used frequently in apps, leading people to mistake it for an official emoji. Another factor could be the blending of memories. Over time, people use various devices and platforms, all with slightly different emoji sets. A seahorse might have appeared in a digital sticker pack, on a website, or as part of an illustration in a messaging app, and those memories could merge with one's mental list of emojis. This blending creates a false confidence, a belief not just that the seahorse emoji existed, but that it was personally used and seen repeatedly. Despite all efforts to debunk it, the belief in the seahorse emoji continues. The more it's discussed, the more people come forward saying they too remember it clearly. It has become a symbol of how collective memory can be shaped, influenced, and sometimes misled. Whether it is a case of mistaken identity, digital overlap, or something more mysterious, the seahorse emoji remains a curious example of how the mind can create certainty in the absence of proof. The Mandela effect reminds us that memory is not a flawless record. It is subjective, easily influenced, and sometimes even shaped by shared stories. In the case of the seahorse emoji, it's not about whether it existed, it's about how strongly people believe that it did. Strange visual changes in weather forecasts. In recent years, many viewers have noticed a significant shift in the visual presentation of weather forecasts on television. What once appeared as green, temperate maps with mild color gradients has evolved into intense, heat-saturated imagery that resembles something out of a natural disaster film. This change has sparked widespread discussion, with people questioning why similar temperatures that were previously displayed on calm green landscapes are now paired with backgrounds resembling molten lava or apocalyptic fire. The images reflect this transformation vividly. In one, a weather presenter stands before a traditional green map, reporting high temperatures in the mid-30s Celsius. Despite the heat, the overall tone of the map appears balanced and neutral. In the newer image, however, almost identical temperatures are depicted with dramatic, fiery visuals, flames, glowing red textures, and extreme contrasts that immediately signal danger and urgency. This stylistic change has prompted people to ask why such a shift has occurred. Many argue that heat waves are not new and that high temperatures have been experienced for generations, especially during summer. They point out that similar readings in previous decades were delivered with minimal dramatization. So why the heightened visual intensity now? One possible reason is the evolving role of media in shaping public perception. The dramatic red and orange tones are not just artistic choices, they evoke emotion, particularly concern. Scientists and broadcasters may be using these vivid animations as a way to communicate the growing seriousness of climate-related heat events. With rising global temperatures and more frequent extreme weather, Some media outlets may feel it is their responsibility to emphasize the danger these heat waves can pose, especially to vulnerable populations such as the elderly or those with health conditions. Additionally, in an age of fast-moving information, visual impact matters more than ever. Audiences are bombarded with content on social media and streaming platforms, making it more difficult for traditional news to capture attention. A fiery, dramatic weather map stands out and grabs viewers immediately. In that sense, the change may also be tied to the psychology of media engagement, using more intense imagery to ensure the message isn't ignored or downplayed. However, critics argue that this approach can also contribute to unnecessary fear or desensitization. If every weather report looks like the world is on fire, viewers may either become overly anxious or eventually stop taking the message seriously. Some feel the shift represents a kind of theatrical embellishment rather than an objective presentation of the facts. They worry that such dramatization could erode trust in the neutrality of weather reporting, transforming it into another emotionally charged broadcast rather than a practical, factual update. Ultimately, the change in weather graphics reflects more than just artistic preference. It is a reflection of the times. Whether to raise awareness, encourage climate consciousness, or simply boost engagement, news stations are leaning into visual drama. As long as these graphics remain rooted in real data and avoid exaggeration, they serve as a reminder of how climate, media, and public perception continue to evolve together. Planned UK UFO hearings will allow members of Parliament to hear testimony from whistleblowers with alleged extraterrestrial encounters. Britain is preparing to take a significant step toward transparency with the announcement of upcoming public hearings that will allow military personnel to share their close encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UFOs. This marks a historic moment for the United Kingdom, where, for decades, military witnesses have remained silent, often constrained by strict non-disclosure agreements or deterred by fear of ridicule. Now, those from the Royal Air Force, the Army, and the Navy will be given a safe and formal platform to share their experiences openly and without judgment. The move is being driven by the UK's newly formed UFO Disclosure Group, led by documentary filmmaker Mark Christopher Lee. The group has secured a meeting with a minister from the House of Lords to lay the groundwork for establishing a select committee designed to hear testimony from credible whistleblowers. These hearings are modelled after the US congressional approach, where public sessions have already led to the release of previously classified documents detailing encounters between military personnel and unexplained aerial craft. Mark Christopher Lee has made it clear that this effort is about giving people a voice. At a screening of his most recent documentary, The Rendlesham UFO, The British Roswell, at the Raindance Film Festival, he spoke about the need for a safe environment where witnesses can speak freely. He described numerous instances where RAF pilots and even law enforcement officers had come forward to him privately with accounts of unexplained sightings, yet felt unable to go public due to the fear of being dismissed or ridiculed. According to Mark, the process is already in motion. A close associate of Prime Minister Keir Starmer has arranged for a formal conversation between the UFO Disclosure Group and a government minister. This meeting is expected to lead to the establishment of a select committee, a crucial step in organising these hearings. The ultimate goal is to have witnesses testify under oath, presenting evidence that could reshape the public's understanding of aerial phenomena. The growing movement in the UK is influenced heavily by the developments in the United States, where military whistleblowers have begun stepping forward with powerful testimonies. These disclosures have helped change the tone of the conversation, shifting it away from sensationalism and toward legitimate national and scientific interest. Britain now seeks to mirror that level of openness. Mark has also stated that there is increasing interest at the highest levels of British society. He claims that Prime Minister Starmer is being briefed on global UFO activity by American officials and that King Charles has expressed a deep interest in the topic, continuing a legacy of curiosity shared by the late Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip. In his previous film, The King of UFOs, Mark presented evidence that Prince Philip had collected reports and even hosted private meetings with experts on the subject. Noted crop circle researcher Colin Andrews confirmed that he personally briefed both Prince Charles and Prince Philip on unexplained aerial and crop-based phenomena. This convergence of public curiosity, political attention, and credible witness accounts is creating a unique moment in British history. For the first time, those who have seen or experienced something extraordinary during their military service may be given the opportunity to speak truthfully and openly in a public forum. The implications go far beyond individual stories. If the government moves forward with the hearings, it could change the way society engages with the question of whether intelligent life exists beyond Earth. These developments also raise profound philosophical and cultural questions. If confirmed encounters suggest the presence of beings not from this world, what would that mean for religious beliefs, national security, or even humanity's place in the universe? Mark believes that King Charles, as a spiritual leader across many faiths, is aware of the potential impact such revelations could have. He has hinted that the monarch is already consulting various advisors about the broader meaning of such discoveries. The coming months will be crucial. As plans for the Select Committee progress and preparations are made to invite whistleblowers to speak, the UK could be entering a new era of openness and inquiry. This moment could become a defining chapter in the long and mysterious history of unexplained aerial encounters, one where truth is no longer hidden in the shadows, but brought forward into the light. The Wessex Way Monster. In England, a mysterious creature was caught on a motorway camera. A strange humanoid named variously as the Wessex Way Monster, the Wessex Way Creature, or the Highway Crawler of England, was seen on camera on an English highway sometime around the year 2007. Images in the form of still photos show what looks to be a head that is similar to a human, complete with legs and an upper torso, and it can run on all fours. Curiously, inhabitants in the region claimed that authorities began to investigate after this tape was made public, and further reports of sightings came from people who claimed to have seen a four-legged monster that bore a striking similarity to a werewolf. After the video was made public, investigations produced little results, but oddly, several people came forward and described how they had seen weird animals prowling the area in the early 2000s. According to the eyewitnesses, the creature resembled a giant hairy humanoid, or werewolf. It could move at extremely high rates and was frequently seen leaving a scene before a good photo could be taken. The creature's rapid speed caused some to speculate that it wasn't natural, pointing out that it might have been a baby deer crossing the road at the time. However, others who took screenshots of the creature claimed that it didn't resemble any of the local wildlife and that it had what appeared to be arms and legs. According to one cop who supposedly came forward and recounted how they had seen strange creatures around the area, the Wessex Way region in Devon is home to numerous unusual species, and locals have been coming forward for years to describe their mysterious experiences. Mrs. Green, one of the eyewitnesses, reported seeing a big, bipedal, canine-like creature with broad shoulders, robust, muscular legs, and a pointed nose that resembled the Wessex Way Monster. It was further described as having blazing eyes and sharp teeth, being between 6 and 7 feet long, and appearing to be able to stand on its hind legs. Its fur was either grey, black, or brown. The video is not very clear, but you can clearly see that its hind legs are not like a deer's, and its upper body and shoulders also seem excessively large, indicating that this creature is more humanoid. Those who have seen the footage have suggested that it could be a skinwalker, wendigo, or even a wild man. The Monkey Man of New Delhi. The Monkey Man phenomenon that gripped New Delhi in the summer of 2001 remains one of the most intriguing and bizarre episodes in the city's history. The sudden appearance of a mysterious, monkey-like creature terrorized residents and sparked widespread panic, leading to a series of dramatic encounters between police and the alleged creature. The events that unfolded during this tumultuous period shed light on the complexities of urban folklore, mass hysteria, and the human psyche. An ape-like creature known as the Monkey Man of New Delhi frightened India's capital city of New Delhi. That May, rumours of an odd, nocturnal, monkey-like creature that was attacking people started circulating in New Delhi. Although eyewitness reports were frequently contradictory, they generally described the creature as standing 4 feet tall and having thick black hair, and it was said to have had metal claws, trousers, and bright red eyes that occasionally showed through goggles. It also wore a metal helmet. Some say the Monkey Man is Bigfoot, while others say it's an embodiment of the Hindu god Hanuman. Many people claim to have been scratched, and in a panic brought on by the monkey man, 2 or 3, depending on certain accounts, even perished when they leaped from building tops or plunged down stairwells. Police eventually even released impressions created by artists in an effort to apprehend the creature. It was said that if one shines a bright light in the monkey man's face, it will dispel his night vision glasses and cause him to flee. Additionally, it was believed that dousing the primate with water would disable his motherboard heart. Likewise, it was thought that the monster might become invisible by simply pressing a single button on his panel. According to these views, the monkey man is more mechanical than natural. 15 individuals sustained injuries on May 13, 2001, varying from scratches and bites to bruises. On May 15th, a pregnant woman fled after hearing neighbors yell that they had seen the monkey man and tumbled down several stairs. Additional reports of sightings surfaced in Kanpur in February 2002 and New Delhi in July 2002, with the latter reporting a contraption like a monkey and glimmering with red and blue lights. An unidentified eyewitness even asserted that the monkey man had stolen his mobile phone. The response from authorities was swift, but initially ineffective. Police received hundreds of distress calls and deployed additional patrols to investigate the reports. As quickly as it had begun, the monkey man phenomenon gradually faded away by midsummer. The number of reported sightings decreased, and public interest shifted to other topics. The lizard man of Scape or swamp. The lizard man of Scape or swamp is a lizard-like humanoid entity described as standing at a height of 7 feet, having been completely green in color and possessing the rough textured skin of a lizard. The primary sightings of the lizard man of Scape or swamp describe the creature as having snake-like scales covering its body from head to toe and 3 large knob-like fingers on each hand. Some of the reported witness sightings claim the creature to have glowing red eyes that appear to illuminate, whereas others have described the creature's eyes as reflective, similar to that of a wild animal. First sighted back in 1988, a series of sightings would persist in the area of Scape or Swamp, South Carolina, over the span of several years before efforts by the local military would prevent cryptid researchers from investigating the sightings any further. Back in 1988, a 17-year-old local resident, known as Christopher Davis, claimed that, as he was driving near the location of Scape or Swamp, he struck a creature that was described as being green, completely wet, 7 feet tall, had the skin of a lizard, possessed 3 fingers on both hands, had wide, glowing red eyes, and was covered from head to toe in snake-like scales. This creature would later be referred to by locals as the lizard man of the Scape or Swamp, and further sightings of the creature would continue for years to come. Though many claimed to have spotted the creature, even occasionally having direct encounters, on the roads located nearby the Scape or Swamp, others claimed that they had even encountered the lizard man more than a few miles away from the swamp. This would eventually lead to so many sightings of the creature that a local radio station offered a $1 million reward to anybody that could capture the creature alive and bring it to the radio station. Though many people believed it to be nothing more than a publicity stunt, the seriousness of the creature would later be the focus of the nearby military base, as an airman known as Kenneth Orr, that worked at the nearby Shaw Air Force Base, would go on to file a police report claiming that he had encountered the lizard man located off of Highway 15 and fired at the creature. He believed he had wounded the creature, but couldn't locate its body. Despite the police report and the proof of a number of scales being found at the location, Kenneth Orr was arrested for claims of an unlawful carry of a weapon and attempting to file false police reports. This has led many to believe that though the military may be actively hunting and looking for the creature, they are also working to cover up the existence of the lizard men to prevent mass panic. Although the two creatures don't share a lot of the same physical characteristics, many cryptid researchers have often compared the reports surrounding the Thetis Lake Monster sightings with that of the lizard man of Scape or Swamp. Similar to the lizard man, the Thetis Lake Monster is a reported lizard man-like entity, but a large protruding horn rising from the top of his head. Additionally, the two creatures made their appearances roughly around the same time, back in the mid-1970s. Although far smaller and more frog-like in design, the Thetis Lake Monster also appears to inhabit an underwater ecosystem. Unlike the lizard man, rather than running from confrontation, the Thetis Lake Monster is remarkably aggressive and has attacked several eyewitnesses over the years. According to a report made by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, on the 19th of August in 1972, 2 eyewitnesses would report a lizard man encounter out on Thetis Lake, located near Cottonwood, British Columbia, only a few miles from the Cadborough Bay off Victoria and Vancouver Island. According to the 2 eyewitnesses, 2 boys by the name of Gordon Pike and Robin Llewellyn, the 2 claimed to have seen a 5-foot-tall creature suddenly emerge from the surface of Thetis Lake and chase them onto the shore of the beach. As the creature got close to Robin Llewellyn, the being was believed to have lowered its head and cut Robin on the hand using 6 razor-sharp points that were located on the cranium of the lizard man-like creature. Once injured, the boys would run further away from the beach as they would watch the impossible-to-explain creature slowly return back to the waters and disappear deep into the lake. Shortly after the encounter, the 2 boys would call the local authorities, and a Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer would arrive at the beach to investigate the claims further. Oddly enough, rather than dismissing the sighting as nothing more than a prank, the officer would document the attack in detail and make special mention of the real wound received by one of the eyewitnesses. The officer would later state that the boys seemed sincere, and until they determine otherwise, they have no alternative but to continue their investigation. 4 days following the initial sightings, on the next Wednesday afternoon, on the 23rd of August, the Thetis Lake Monster would be reported once again by independent eyewitnesses who claimed to have seen the lizard man creature by the shores of the lake. According to the eyewitnesses, 2 men by the name of Mike Gold and Russell Van Nice, the 2 claimed that while they were at the shores of Thetis Lake, in the recreation area commonly visited by tourists, they noticed a peculiar disturbance in the water across the lake at around 3:30 in the afternoon. The 2 men claimed that as they watched the disturbance in the water, they initially thought that the source could have been a man struggling to swim as the creature would make it to the shore after seemingly being stuck underneath the surface of the water for an exceptionally long period of time. Once on the shore, the 2 eyewitnesses described the creature as appearing to have had the body of a human being, covered entirely in scales, with the head and face of a monster. Atop the head of the creature was believed to be a razor-sharp horn, or point, with large sharp ears jutting off of the side of the creature's skull. Although it was difficult to accurately see, the men believed that the creature was entirely silver in color, though admit that the color could have been caused by a reflection of the afternoon light on the smooth surface of the wet scale. One of the eyewitnesses, Mike Gold, would later provide a statement to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on the incident, saying that the mysterious creature came out of the water and looked around. He described the creature as shaped like an ordinary body, like a human being's body, but it had a monster face, and it was all scaly, a point sticking out of its head and great big ears. Although these 2 sightings would be the only known detailed reports surrounding the strange creature, rumors surrounding the Thetis Lake claim that man-sized serpent-like creatures are often spotted in the area surrounding the lake and in the nearby bay. Legends of a monster referred to as the Cadborosaurus, nicknamed the Caddy, are claimed almost every year in the British Columbian coast, known as the Cadborough Bay, located only a few miles from the Thetis Lake. Although the serpent creature of Cadborough, referred to as the Caddy, is often described by eyewitnesses as being similar in design to the Loch Ness Monster, continued sightings of frog-like and lizard-like humanoids have been made all throughout the surrounding region of the Cadborough Bay. Additionally, during certain months of the year, Thetis Lake directly connects with Cadborough Bay, draining out into the nearby shoreline, allowing a brief moment of connection between the 2 bodies of water. New Jersey Gator Man connection. Researchers often compare the original sightings of the lizard man of Scape or swamp sightings, reported out of the state of South Carolina, to many of the matching details of the New Jersey alligator man, such as the alligator-like appearance of the creature and its reported likeness of standing upright on its hind feet, or its behavior of running away when confronted or spotted by a human being, as well as its height and its body, both of which are covered from head to toe in scales. This has led many cryptid researchers into believing that the cryptid responsible for the New Jersey Gator Man reports is also responsible for the lizard man of Scape or swamp reports of South Carolina. During the summers of the early 1970s, a series of reports would be made by independent eyewitnesses around the southern tip of New Jersey, claiming to see what eyewitnesses would describe as a humanoid-shaped alligator man swimming near the shores of the Newton-Lafayette area. Known as the New Jersey Gator Man, according to the hundreds of residents over the course of 5 years, reported between 1973 to 1978, the man-like alligator would be seen swimming in the water, diving down and staying submerged for long periods of time and leaving the water, walking on the shore on its 2 hind legs, similar to that of a man. During the first year of the creature's appearance, back in 1973, a reporter would investigate the sightings of several eyewitnesses who claimed to have been walking by the shores of the Newton-Lafayette area when they noticed what they originally believed was a flailing man in the water. Calling out to the man out of fear that he could have been drowning, the creature would come closer to the shores, only to be revealed as a scaled humanoid creature estimated to have been around 6 feet tall and possessing the head of an alligator. Although the local authorities were uninterested in the reports, the journalist would publish his story in a local newspaper, giving the creature its iconic name and comparing its existence to an ancient Native American story in the region. According to the Lenni Lenape Native American tribe, an ancient legend of a man-sized fish roaming near the shores of the New Jersey area described a similar creature believed to have been a scaled monster. The legend would claim that though the fish was far larger than any known natural species and easy to spot in the water, its size made it impossible to catch and proved to be far too dangerous to ever try to hunt, with the cunning nature of the creature being far more terrifying than its size. It is believed that the New Jersey Gator Man sightings are similar to the ancient Lenni Lenape legends. The reports of the New Jersey Gator Man would reach their climax by the summer of 1977, when a scientific researcher would provide an interview with the local newspaper confirming the existence of a gator man-like creature living near the New Jersey coastline. According to the reports, a New York State conservation naturalist by the name of Alfred Hulstruck would claim that a creature described as a scaled, man-like creature that appears from deep within the waters exists near the state's southern tier. Alfred Hulstruck would also claim that the primary reason for the creature's appearance was due to man-made ecological disasters in the region. Although the cause was unknown, Hulstruck believed that the red algal blooms caused by many of the questionable practices of the state and local businesses were the primary reason for the creature's sudden appearance, as it was believed that the region the creature most frequented were the algae-ridden waters. Interestingly enough, immediately following the statement by the New York State conservation naturalist, the story of the New Jersey Gator Man would go completely silent, with many cryptid theorists believing that a secret government ban on the topic was enforced. Additionally, it appears that any evidence of the articles were claimed to have been scrubbed from first-hand reports, with mentions to the articles coming only from second-hand accounts. Oddly enough, it has proven rather difficult, or next to impossible, to prove the validity of the story of the original newspaper reports back in 1973, as the only sources of the legends of the New Jersey Gator Man make reference to an unnamed journalist and unknown local newspaper that claimed to have authored the article on the New Jersey Gator Man. Several facts surrounding the second-hand accounts are verifiable, however, such as the claims of algal blooms near the southern coastal waters of the New Jersey coastline. Even more interesting, matching the direct claims from the New York State conservation naturalist, growing concerns surrounding chronic red-ride blooms are being investigated by the United States government, with fears that the tides have been causing deeper water species to surface or be relocated due to oxygen deprivation. It could be that the surfacing of the humanoid alligator-like creature could have been caused by the sudden oxygen deprivation in the waters caused by the red algal tides, directly matching the claims of Alfred Hulstruck. When researching the history of the pre-colonial period of the New Jersey area, then known as Nova Caesarea, researcher George Dudding found similar stories of what were referred to as a dragon in the river that ran throughout the area of modern-day New Jersey, recorded by local Native American tribes. According to Dudding, the Native American tribes that had resided around the New Jersey region prior to European settlement had inhabited the region for more than 13 years, predating the creation of modern civilization by more than 2,000 years. It was after the end of the last ice age that the tribal group known as the Lenni Lenape Native Americans had begun to occupy the area of the modern-day Lower Hudson River Valley and the Delaware River Valley. Although the exact timeline of their expansion is unknown, it is believed that over the next few thousand years, the group would reach out and settle in areas much further eastward, closer to the Atlantic Ocean, in the area now referred to as the state of New Jersey. It was sometime around the mid-1600s when the first early European settlers would make contact with the Lenape Native Americans, referring to them as the Indian Delaware tribe. It was during this initial contact that many of the Native Americans warned the early European settlers to not build around the Delaware River, referring to the area as the Poquessing, a term that translates to mean the cursed place of the river dragon. Not believing the story and instead assuming that the legends were mere fabrications created to convince the settlers to live in areas much further away from the Native American territories, many of the European settlers decided to set up their colonies surrounding the Delaware River, given its ease of access for trade, transportation, and fishing. Oddly enough, it appears that the legends told to the settlers by the Native Americans were founded in some form of truth, as many of the early European settlers would tell strange stories of dragons spotted in the rivers, by the rivers, and near the surrounding woods throughout the region. Once the Swedish explorers arrived in the region, the name of the Delaware River was referred to as Drake Kill, a combination of two Swedish words that translates to mean the Dragon River. Today, creeks and tributaries surrounding the Delaware River hold names like Poquessing Creek or Drake Kylan, which translate to reference dragons or man-sized reptiles spotted in the creeks and rivers in those areas. According to a former UK paratrooper and military intelligence officer, British Special Forces retrieved a non-human ship that was shot down in northern England in the late 1980s. Veteran of the British Army's elite parachute regiment, Frank Milburn, claimed to have spoken with an agent of the MI6 run team that conducted the purported mission. A pair of disc-shaped UFOs that were flying faster than their fighter jets at hypersonic speeds were pursued and fired at by the British Royal Air Force crew, but he declined to disclose the identity of his former partner, citing security concerns and his need to stay secret. The veteran shared startling details of a narrative his comrade from Special Forces told him after they both left the army in an exclusive interview with news outlets. He claimed he wanted to support previous accusations made by American whistleblowers regarding a covert UFO crash recovery program. Frank Milburn claims that his friend worked with Squad E, a covert, clandestine and paramilitary force that specialized in covert operations back in the 1980s. Formerly called the Increment, Squadron E brought in the most seasoned and reliable operators from the Special Air Service, Special Boat Service, and Regiment of Special Recognition of the United Kingdom's Special Forces. The CIA's Special Operations Group and Joint Special Operations Command, which are composed of Tier 1 forces like Delta Force and SEAL Team 6, are the American counterparts of this squadron. According to Milburn, his friend participated in multiple high-risk operations across the globe, including one that took place in his native nation in the late 1980s. He claimed to have told him they were stationed in a troop-sized group, maybe consisting of 20 or 30 Special Forces operators. He said that a ship that was not American, British or Russian had been taken down, and added that their mission was to secure and reclaim the ship in England's north. They were flown there in a helicopter, and he stated that it was obvious that the ship was not human and that there were occupants who had left the area on foot, which led to a task of tracking down these beings to try to take them into custody. They left a portion of the force to guard the ship. Maybe 6 or 8 men should have been left to cordon off the ship, and the rest would have been tracking these escaping beings on foot, in quads, or in large off-road vehicles with help from a helicopter. Everything was totally out of our control after that. Milburn claimed that his friend informed him that technicians and scientists had arrived in the region and that his team had been flown away by helicopter, leaving them to never hear again about the downed ship. And even though he declined to provide her with any further information and offered no proof for his amazing tale, the ex-paratrooper claimed he believed his former elite comrade's word after vetting him alongside other SAS veterans. He said that he has complete faith in him. After leaving the military, he spoke with the person and said that this individual is a very good skydiver. He talked to paratroopers and his former SAS colleagues, and they were discussing a man who courageously engaged in some of the most difficult combat during the Falklands campaign. He made the observation that this is not the kind of person who talks nonsense or jokes. Up until the late 1990s, Milburn was employed by the US Army Special Forces and the US State Department's Office of Diplomatic Security as a contractor in the Middle East. The mysterious Mike Foss encounter. One cold November evening in the mid-1970s, 27-year-old Mike Foss saw a mysterious shimmering object while driving home to rural South Dakota. By the time he got home, the object was hovering near the property, which added to the strangeness of the situation. The Foss family was left absolutely perplexed by the 3 further sightings that transpired over the course of several weeks, beginning with the strange sighting of Mike and his parents. After the encounters, UFO investigators looked into the case, but despite their best efforts, no plausible explanation could be found, and what they actually saw is still a complete mystery. Following his recent divorce, Foss was residing at his parents' house on a farm they owned around 7 miles south of Millbank, South Dakota, at the time of the encounter. Furthermore, despite having a natural aptitude for architecture, Foss was forced to work as a significantly less strenuous part-time switchboard operator for the Millbank Police Department due to a severe physical problem. Nevertheless, he was eventually seen as a reliable witness, possibly as a result of his employment. Especially considering that his father, Norman Foss, was also a South Dakota highway patrolman for nearly 20 years. On November 27, 1976, at around 6:30 in the evening, Mike Foss left for home after stopping by a Millbank auto body shop. The clear night had helped to bring the temperature down to almost 0, even though it was still early evening. He saw what he later described as a mysterious light without a source, an extraordinarily bright, blazing orange light above him on his right side while driving on Highway 77. For the next few minutes, he continued to focus on the light object, and finally he turned into a gravelled country road that led to his parents' farmhouse. He noticed the mysterious object seemed to be hovering over a field at the side of the road as soon as he turned onto this one, and at this point he stopped the car so he could have a better look, even though he was still inside and the engine was still running. Initially, he assumed the object was probably a helicopter, maybe a police chopper on a patrol or searching mission, but as he continued to observe, it became increasingly clear to him that whatever he was seeing was a little more unusual. His mind was suddenly filled with terror at this realization, so he stepped on the throttle and drove as fast as he could to his parents' property. He made the decision to tell his parents what he had seen as soon as he returned home, and then he would accompany them back to this spot to continue watching the thing. Mike was honking his car's horn to attract his parents' attention, even before he pulled into their driveway. With a scream, he brought the car to a stop and dashed home, calling out to his parents as soon as he opened the front door. Telling them as soon as he could what he had seen, he persuaded them to accompany him, and when they reached the front door together, Mr. Foss led his son out to his automobile. However, before they could leave, Mike abruptly came to a stop. The thing that Mike had noticed on the desolate road moments before was there, both in front of them and above them, estimating that it was 100 feet ahead of them. It seemed like it had followed him home. At this distance, they were able to make out that the object was clearly formed like an egg, with a blue glow at the bottom and various coloured flashing lights on the upper half that appeared to melt into one another. For 20 to 25 minutes, all 3 of them were fixated on the thing. It spent this time between the barn and the hog house until it started to gently and steadily walk away from them, finally vanishing into the distance. Although none of the family members knew what to make of the incident, they all agreed that they had witnessed something utterly unusual. Furthermore, the Foss family would continue to experience weird occurrences even though they were unaware of it at the time. More information would emerge in the days and weeks that followed as UFO investigators worked through the case. For instance, Mr. Foss remembered that on the night in question, he had been watching television when it suddenly started to act strange shortly before his son arrived home. Mr. Foss would go on to say that the television only typically behaved in this manner during strong winds when the antenna was being hit, leading him to believe at the time that a sudden wind had picked up. Interestingly enough, the television reception had returned to normal by the time they went back inside the house after the object vanished. In addition, Mr. Foss was the one who realized that the object had to have been perfectly silent the entire time, and he remembered that as soon as he stepped outside after Mike got home, he could hear traffic on the interstate, which was about 2 miles distant. Additionally, he remembered seeing the wing lights of an aeroplane and could hear it going by. If the much closer object had been making any noise at all, he and Mike and Mrs. Foss would have definitely heard it, since he could clearly hear these other sounds. Mr. Foss and Mike also remembered that the object's radiance illuminated the entire yard. Mrs. Foss, incidentally, had been wearing opera glasses as she viewed the proceedings via the kitchen window. As it drifted off into the distance, she kept watching the item, and after a few moments, she said, it seemed to pause and shoot out a few red balls from its side. These balls floated in different directions away from the object. One of these balls abruptly halted as she was examining it, then burst into silence. The thing had almost vanished by the time Mike and Mr. Foss came back inside. Mike would also say that when he saw the object again, much closer, he felt no fear at all, even though the first time, when he saw it from the quiet roadside, he had experienced a rush of terror. He explained that he thought anyone who could produce something like that could have easily hurt him the first time if it had been hostile. In the coming days and weeks, Mike started having odd, recurrent dreams in which he found himself on a hilltop on an unfamiliar planet with a purple sky. He explained that some of the unusual vehicles he saw traveling through the sky were silver, some were black, and that it appeared like a war was going on. He never got over the idea that the weird object he had seen would return, especially when he dreamed about it. The object did, in fact, return 3 more times between November 27th and December 11th, 1976. These 2 sightings were the first 2 that came from a distance, but when the Foss family saw it a 3rd time, it was much closer, precisely as close as it had been the first time, hovering once more between the barn and the hog house. This 3rd occurrence really unfolded almost exactly how the previous one did, with the object visible for around 25 minutes before vanishing into the distance. However, it just so happened that Mike's police radio frequency scanner was turned on automatically this time. The thing appeared, and then the bandwidth was filled with a burst of static. The Minnesota Highway Patrol uses frequency 7, therefore it didn't really matter if it was the frequency that locked in. After reporting the incident to Millbank Police, Mike at this point sent a patrol car to the property. A moment later, Police Chief Ben Amsden arrived at the Foss property, but by the time he reached it, the object had receded significantly, to the point where it was now only a faint glow out in the distance. Nonetheless, the officer did write in his report that he saw an odd orange light as he got closer to the home, and that glow seemed to fade over a few seconds, as though the source of the glow was moving away from the house. Additional corroborated witnesses were located during this specific sighting. Don Adams, a barman at a nearby club approximately 2.5 miles from the Foss property, and his spouse both reported seeing the object near the local radio tower. Nevertheless, the potential that the reports were really wildly inflated observations of Venus was taken into consideration by the investigators. After all, at this time the planet was highly conspicuous in the southwest sky. Mike responded with certainty that they had already noticed Venus, stating that it was not what they saw, and added that there was a big difference between the aircraft they witnessed and Venus.